Okay, so there's been some recent news about some hyperscale data centers. A lot of them are being announced every sort of week. Some of them obviously will have space or power and networking for accelerated compute. But edge compute doesn't sort of get the same type of announcement that hyperscale does, right? Perhaps due to the relative scale, an edge compute could be in the 2 to 3 million. Whereas obviously the hyperscales are reaching into the billions sometimes, but definitely in the multiple tens of millions. So when it comes to sort of the innovation and invention, the edge compute does have perhaps a little bit more of an advantage, especially when it comes to perhaps cities that aren't as prominent. Not your New York, your Londons, your Parises, or your Dubais. What you've got is if you can reach to universities in other cities, where perhaps there isn't a prominent tourist scene or it's not a capital of a country, an edge compute of sort of like 1 petaflops in terms of high performance compute can be very beneficial for that economy. And so localizing that, I think, is where perhaps the noise has to be made. And also I think what you're doing within that edge compute is by tying in the local industry, the anchor institutions, as well as local government, local policing, local education. You're able to solve challenge statements that are specific for that city, right? And also you may be able to maintain the values that are created within that city as well, the cultures that are created in that city as well, rather than just exporting technology from a hyperscaler that will have a more of a drive on a volume basis. Rather than a specific niche. I think that obviously coronavirus seems like it was a long time ago, but obviously edge compute does facilitate that whole localization. If coronavirus the pandemic happens again, which obviously they predict it will at some stage, by having your services, your compute internally, each city can then have a proportionate response. So where you might have big cities with more dense populations, yes, there'll have to be a different lockdown to another city that doesn't have that level of density. So I think it's important for us to recognize what edge compute can do. And also it has to work with the hyperscalers, it has to work with the telco operators. It's not like these edge units are isolated in any way. There has to be an involvement with the hyperscalers, because there might be some level of training. If there's an AI tool, some level of training that happens on a hyperscale, which has thousands of GPUs, and then obviously the inferred model or the inference is then done locally on a smaller set of GPUs. So you've got to balance both. Whether the edge will ever get a sort of national level recognition, possibly not, but it's important to try and I think recognize it locally. So obviously, we're obviously setting up ones in different cities, obviously Sharjah at the moment, where I'm talking from now, but we're also looking at other regions where wherever city we go in, it's not a national HPC, it is designed purely to be something that is expandable from the first city, but expandable to other cities, so that there's a spread, there's a decentralized compute for everyone to work on. So that's something which we will promote, and over the next 2-3 months you'll see more announcements from us, and perhaps a bit more in terms of publicity when it comes to the architectures that we will be creating. Thanks.